All right, guys. This one's going to be a little bit mathy, but it's okay. I promise. You can get away without knowing exactly how all this stuff works, but I think it's just worth mentioning how the modulo operator actually goes. So I'm going to talk about integer division and the modulo operator a little bit. And really my kind of guiding principle here is that computers are really, really good at calculating, but humans are kind of crummy at interpreting numbers, especially when they get big. So a good program is something that can bridge that gap for us. And second, we'll find ourselves in need of some randomness. So we should first import the randint function from the random library. So if you recall how to do that, it's from random import randint, and that's only going to get me the one randint function, right? So then I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to do this by example with a number of hours. So I'm going to make a variable called num hours, and that's going to be a random integer between, let's make it 30 and 1800. Oh, that might be a bit much. Let's make it 30 and between 30 and 180, right? So you can imagine that you would get some kind of number of hours out of a kind of a complex calculation or something. So assume that this is coming from some other piece of code. And then I think we need to try to convert that to something more comprehensible. So let me first print that out just diagnostically. So I'm going to have the program print a formatted string. And that formatted string is going to say something like starting with num hours, dot, dot, dot. Okay, so after we've got our random number of hours, let's just check that that's working. Okay, cool. 39 hours, 125 hours, cool. All right, so in order to get this to days, so I want to find out how many days. I'm going to make a new variable that I'm going to call number of days. And number of days is going to be equal to, I'm pretty sure, number of hours divided by 24, because there's 24 hours in a day, right? And so now I should see this. Oh, but I'm not doing anything with it. So I need another print. So I'm going to print, and I'm going to print out a formatted string, and that formatted string is going to say something like that's, oh, something weird happened there. Oh, that single quote, right? This little guy here, that's causing the end of the string, so I want to escape that because otherwise I'll be stuck out of my string. So I want to say that's num days, right? Does that make sense? So I want to find out how many days, and then I want to print out how many days. And I guess I should say that I'm dividing by 24. Okay, so let's just check and see if that's working. 128 hours is 5 days. 58 hours is 2.4 days. 30 hours is 1.25. Okay, so sometimes this works reasonably, and other times it's like that's 2.41666 days. Like, that's not an answer, right? So if I want to do a better job of calculating, I really want a number, right? I want a like number of days and then like maybe a leftover number of hours. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to force this thing to do what's called integer division here. I'm going to make it divide for like no seriously divide. And what that's going to do is that's going to only give me the integer count. So 69 hours is 2 days, and 37 hours is 1 day, and 158 hours is 6 days. And you'll notice like 40 hours is not 1 day, right? 40 hours is quite a bit more than 1 day. It's like a day and also 16 hours. So what I also want to calculate here is I want to find out how many leftover hours there are. And one way I could do this, so totally legit, one way I could do this is I could take the number of days I just calculated, multiply by 24, and then subtract it. That's really way too mathy. We can just use a symbol for that because we have to do this all the time. You're going to have to do this anytime you deal with time at all. Or anytime you're doing unit conversions. All of those kind of messy little unit conversions that you do in physics and chemistry. Anytime you want the computer to do that stuff, you're going to have to do this. So in order to make it easier on ourselves, that how many leftovers there are is already built into the computer language. So I'm just going to say leftover hours is num hours, right? So the number of hours I started with, and then this is a modulo operator. So this is giving me the leftovers after you divide by 24. So I'm just going to add that to my printout. So that's going to be num days, and you can see I've used a variable called leftover before because apparently that's a thing I do. And so that's num days, and leftover hours. Oops, and I lost my brace. Okay, so now if we hit go, we'll get 80 hours is 3 days and 8 hours, or 56 hours is 2 days and 8 hours. 140 hours is 20 days, or 5 days and 20 hours. So I think this is more or less working. If you want to get the original number back, you notice that you can take the, oops, let me do a print here. So I'm going to do a formatted string and say the original number of hours was, and then into my little brace, I'm going to do num days times 24 plus leftover hours. And so we're starting with 175 hours. That's 7 days, 7 hours. And the original number of hours was 175. And we're going to kind of keep fiddling with this. So 48 hours, that's 2 days and 0 hours. The original number of hours was 48. Perfect. And then maybe we get real cocky and do something between minus 180 hours and 180 hours. Let's see, so 74 hours works fine. Okay, and then when they're negative, they get a little weird. So negative 34 hours is 2 days ago and 14 hours forward. And so the reason that you want to go back 2 days and 14 hours forward instead of going back a day and then back 10 hours? The reason you actually want it to work this way is that this is how screen wrapping should work. So if you're trying to calculate the coordinates on a screen and you're moving your cursor this way, and then it goes off the left edge of the screen, right? Right here it should be at 2 pixels or something. And then it's at 1 pixel, and then it's at 0 pixels, and then if I left the edge of the screen, it would be at a small negative number. And I would like that small negative number to correspond to a big positive number, right? So I'd forget this part, the integer division part. I'd forget that -2 because I don't care how many times your ship's been around the screen. I just care where it is right now. Does that make sense? That might be a little bit funky. Maybe we'll get some more examples on that later. But for right now, what I need you to know is that modulo is the number of leftover, right, after you do the division. So the remainder, if you're used to the division algorithm. And if you want to know how many times it goes in, then you want to do this double divide. And that's going to give you the whole number of times that it goes in. So that's going to return an integer value. And do keep in mind that that essentially rounds down. So you'll see, right, negative 34 divided by 24 is negative 1 3/4 or something. So then we get negative 2 is the kind of integer division result. And in order to finish this off, I think I need my one more comment, which is print out the calculated original amount. And I'm going to put this up on a rappel so that you guys can play with this thing if you want.